country has a primary objective to achieve a sustained economic growth, thus the monetary policy rate, which is usually pegged to reach and maintain a low and stable inflation rate of a state's economy. Do you know the processes involved in the interest rate charged when you borrow from a financial institution? On this week's edition of BizTech, our reporter, Desmond Frimpong, sits down with an economist and lecturer of the University of Ghana, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, who breaks down and explains in simple terms the stages involved in the monetary policy rate.
The COVID-19 is indeed having a rippling effect on all economies around the globe, and various governments are coming up with solutions for survival. One of the ways in which Ghana is doing so is through its central bank's monetary policy rate, and that's the rate at which the central bank lends money to commercial banks. But what does that all mean? Today, we speak to Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie of the University of Ghana Economics Department for him to explain to us what all this means.
Dr. Sarkodie, welcome to the BizTech show on Ghana Web. So today we would really pretty much appreciate to have a fair sense of what monetary policy rate is. Most of the time, a lot of people hear about this and it becomes a whole lot of issues that it's hard to get their heads around. And would want to get an understanding as to what monetary policy rate even is to start with.
Yeah, I think the government through the central bank wants to control the credit in the system, the amount of money we have in the Ghanaian economy, and it is done everywhere in every country. So the Bank of Ghana, who is a central bank, who is also the bank of the government, uses certain monetary tools to control whether the increase or decrease in the money we have in the country, in the growth of money. And monetary policy is one of the tools they use. Monetary policy is simply the rate at which the commercial banks will borrow from the central bank. You know, all the commercial banks respond to the central bank. And then because central bank wants to control the credit, or in layman's term, the amount of money in the system, they use the rate. They either increase it or reduce it, depending on what they want to achieve. If they want more credit in the system, they reduce it. If they want fewer credit in the system, they increase it. Now, the base rate charged by the commercial banks, when they are calculating it, like say any bank at all, any commercial bank you can think of, when they are calculating the base rate, one of the factors they take into consideration is the monetary policy rates set by the central bank each year, because it is also a cost to them. It's a cost to the commercial banks. So if the rate is high, the cost to them for borrowing from the central bank is high. If the rate is low, the cost to the commercial banks to borrow from the central bank is low. So they really look at it. And that is why most often than not, governments through the central bank want to keep it at an appreciable level so that they do not hurt the commercial banks, who in turn will pass it on. Remember that they will pass it on to we, the customers. They charge us a high base rate. But like I said, the policy rate is just one of the many variables they consider in calculating the base rate. The other variables are the non-performing loans, inflation, and even the macroeconomic stability, the political environment in general. They take in, and also the number of customers that come to take out loans here and there. So the policy rate is used to regulate the money supply in the system. And I think this government has done very well when it comes to the strategies that they put in place to fight or to tackle the health crisis, which is caused by the COVID-19, and also the economic crisis caused by the COVID-19.
So, Doc, before you even dovetail into the strategies being put in place by various governments to more or less arrest such situations, you made a very interesting point to control the supply of money, money being too much in the system or being less in the system. Layman, why should there be less money in the system when we need more money to spend?
Well, economics states that your economic activity must match the revenue. In other words, if you work at Ghana Web, you must not be giving free money. You must work for it. So always the productivity is equal to the real wage. So that's the micro level. At the macro level, we want to match the amount of money in the system with production. That is why when people say the government should print and we pay our debts, when you do that, you are going to disturb the equilibrium, which we call the equilibrium. So there shouldn't be, if there is too much money and it is caused by production, because people have produced, contractors have worked, and we are paying them, the road has been constructed, and we are paying them, then it's good. If teachers have worked and they are being paid and there's money in the system, it's good. Everybody wants to enjoy money. But when there is no production, when there's no work, and then you allow money supply to increase in the system, it will disturb your economy, first of all, to cause very high level inflation. And no country wants to experience hyperinflation. You have no idea. I had a roommate from Zimbabwe when I was in Kenya, and he told me in Zimbabwe, if you went to the supermarket to ask for the price of bread, by the time you go and pick the bread and come back, the price has increased. Yeah. So you don't want that. And then you don't want, these other macroeconomic variables like GDP. GDP will be disturbed because GDP is about production. So when you give money free in the system, you just print, there's no production, GDP will be going down, inflation will go up, your public debt will rise, etc., etc. And you see that the economy will be misbehaving. And these credit rating agencies, they'll rate you negative to the extent that no investor will want to do business with you. And so you crumple. And then that's what happened in Zimbabwe, and we don't want to experience that in the country. So we have to manage it.
So, Dr. Sako, they're staying on the monetary policy rates. One would want to know, how did they even come about it? Did they just sit down, drink a cup of tea, and they're like, no, today we have to increase, tomorrow we have to increase, we have to decrease?
I think what is key to measuring the policy rate is inflation. For a long time, we have been practicing what we call the inflation targeting monetary framework. And if you take a look at the budgets presented to the Parliament of Ghana each year, there is a target. Even the central bank agrees to the target. It's the central bank rather that sets the target and gives it to the Minister of Finance. It's 8 plus or minus 1. So we always want to have inflation between 6 and 10. That's 8 plus or minus 1, minus 2. Sorry, 8 plus or minus 2. That's between 6 and 10. And therefore, they look at the behavior of inflation, whether it's rising or it's falling. You remember that in the previous administration, they were always fighting inflation with the policy rate. So they were raising the policy rate. In fact, the policy rate went as high as 26%, which was the second highest in Africa. And in fact, even in the whole world, it was the second highest in the whole world. If money supply is growing too slow, then they reduce it to increase the rate of increase in money supply. So these are some of the things they look at. They also look at the demand for credit, because at the end of the day, it's demand and supply. If you want more credit, means more money in the system, and nobody's demanding it, then it's going to cause a disequilibrium. So if many people, we have investors in Ghana, Ghanaian businesses are booming, and everybody wants to demand credit, they want to build houses, they want to go to school, they want to pay bills, then there's the need for the monetary policy to regulate it with the policy rate. So in calculating it, you look at credit, inflation, interest rates, the general macroeconomic environment before that.
For some time now, it has been coming down. You cited even an example when it got to a time it was even 26 and now has come down to 14 to 40 point something. But the concern really is, over the period, even though we have seen a drop sometimes marginally, how does it really reflect in the borrowing by me and any other corporate organization that goes to the commercial bank for loans?
It's a question of the transmission mechanism we have. We call something transmission mechanisms. If I give you 100 cedis, how much do you give it to this lady? How much does she give to that? So the policy rate is used to also regulate the interest rate. You and I are the customers that will go to the commercial banks. If the policy rate is high, we are likely to, get our loans at a higher interest rate. If the policy rate is low, it will have an impact to lower the base rate and for we the customers to enjoy. And it is not automatic. That is where the issue is. It is not automatic.
Yeah, lowering
yes.
Still
yes.
interest rates on commercial loans are high.
No, but I think that if you compare the previous regime and currently, the policy rate was high as high as 26%. Now we are talking about 14.5%. The base rate, the average lending rate was around 31%. Now we are talking about 23%. So there has been some reduction, but I know that the reduction in the base rate is lower than the percentage reduction in the policy rate. Because I think I made earlier point that the commercial banks, when they are calculating their base rate, they do not only consider the policy rate. So the fact that your policy rate has been reduced does not mean that you just walk to the commercial banks and they give you a lower rate. They look at all other variables. But of course, the policy rate is just one of the many variables they look at.
As a borrower, why should these things concern me?
Because you want your loans at a lower cost. I am of the view that this country must start to pursue single-digit interest rates. We've tried our best with the single-digit inflation. We've done well. I want to see the government that will start the pursuit of single-digit interest rate. This will help us, and I have various reasons for that. Let's look at employment. We are saying job creation. Government's share of employment is just 6.8%. So the remaining 93-point-something% are from the private sector. And you expect the private sector to go and borrow at a higher cost?
The central bank is yet to come out with its 96th review of the monetary policy rate. What are your predictions? Are we likely to see a lower rate? Are we likely to see a higher? What are your predictions?
I think the committee will maintain it. They will maintain the rate at its current level of 14.5%. Reasons being that we are all experiencing economic slowdown, so we do not expect an increment in the policy rate. We also do not expect a reduction because of inflationary pressures. Currently, the country is experiencing inflationary pressures. The target for the year was about 8%. Currently, we are doing over 11%. The budget deficit is also high. It's been increased from 4.7% as a target to 11.4%. So you are looking at these two, variables, and you don't want to increase it because of economic slowdown. You do not also want to reduce it because of inflationary pressures and budget deficit. So the only option left is for them to maintain it. If anything at all, if they will do anything different from maintaining it, it will be a reduction. As for increment, no way.
As for increment, no way. So we're going for a quick break, and we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, an economist with the University of Ghana.
We table issues relating to the arts and entertainment for a riveting discussion, of course, without fear nor favor.
The question the presenter asked them was a dumb question. You need to speak the fact and move.
Varied views. We agree to disagree.
So I would disagree with everything you said. I think that he's a smart guy. I think what he did.
No, but I also said he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
I guess that I'm waiting for the what next.
Yeah, I don't think that we have to wait for what next.
It sometimes gets confrontational, but that's the beauty of the game.
Today you're funny face. It's not my brother. Funny face. I don't know him. You don't know funny face. It's not my brother. You don't know funny face.
It's a package. We meet, we sit, we dialogue, we learn, we progress. My name is Benefo Huabin Abrantepa, a proud blogger, and this is my forum.
So we are moving straight into asset management, national asset management. There were claims that the airport was going to be sort of privatized or 60% being given to a private company from Turkey to manage, which the aviation ministry has come out to the bank. National assets and inviting private or probably ceding a percentage to be managed by private people. Is there anything new?
Not anything new. We have seen so many companies that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our first president, established in the country, and they have been privatized, especially during the Structural Adjustment Program in 1983, where we were forced by the Bretton Woods institutions to privatize some of these government enterprises. But the other side of the story is that if the enterprises are not performing, if they are making losses, do you sit down and just say that it operates in the name of being patriotic? So let's look at the combination of still keeping the Ghana identity and also improving the management and making sure that we make profit. I am of the view that efficiency here is key. If we can improve the management system, we can make it more efficient, reduce the losses, make profit, then there's no point in bringing the private sector. If the management, we can run a public institution as a private institution, then there's no problem. But if it's not been able to run like a private institution, then there's the need to open up. Opening up for various reasons. Number one is that when you open up for investors to invest their money, because their heart will be where their money is, they will make sure that management is efficient enough to reduce losses and make profit. So remember what happened to PDS. In principle, it would have been a very good, policy, but because of one or two, the story, so we don't want to go back. So either we improve the management of national assets or we allow the private sector to participate, to invest.
Do you subscribe to the idea that certain national assets should be exclusively run by the state?
Yes, like water. These are essential commodities that we cannot leave it in the hands of the private sector to run, because the private man is a profit-making person, and they are always going to base their argument on the situations on the market. That's demand and supply. The market has been seen to fail. That's what we call in economics market failure. The market is not always perfect. That is why there's free secondary education, because if we allow the market to dictate who goes to secondary school and who doesn't, many people will stay at home. So there are certain things that the market will fail to evenly distribute. So as for water and some aspect of basic education, now the definition of basic education is up to secondary level. So that cannot be left in the hands of the private sector, because they will use the application of the market to reduce the privileges of some individuals. So I am of the view that certain things should not be left in the private sector, like water. But going forward, we have seen what GCB now. It used to be 100% government owned. Now they have offloaded some of the shares to the private sector. I want to see that in many organizations like the airport that you said, if they have 30%, 40% shares in these organizations, they will make sure. PDS, if you read the report of PDS, within that short time, 3 months or so, they made profit. So it will help reduce the leakages. And I think that similar things should happen even at the ports, Tema Port, Takoradi ports. Let's allow the private sector to participate. This one district, one factory is still PPP. They are allowing the private sector to participate. Government cannot continue to be giving monies to these state institutions who continuously make losses, for them to be reimbursed with our tax money. So we cannot continue to do that.
PPP, public-private partnership is a great deal. But how do we make sure that we secure a better deal as a country?
First of all, not to lose our majority share. We cannot go beyond 50%. We cannot allow the private person to control more than 50% of our enterprises. Other than that, we are losing the Ghanaian identity. So that is one. Number two, we make sure that whoever is bringing the money is trustworthy, because credibility is also key, and then we also remove the political influences, because on one breath you say the private person should participate, on the other breath you see that the person coming is from, is related to the government or the president in one way or the other. So the political influence will still be there. So let's make sure that we reduce the political influence on the private person coming to participate in our shares. But I mean, generally speaking, there's a need for us to improve on our economic performance, macroeconomic performance, to get better credit rating, because the investor, if the person is not, even if the person is a Ghanaian, the person will look at the rating, compare, because I have my money. Do I choose to invest in Ghana or go to invest in Nigeria? So that must be there. That Ghana, economic performance, macroeconomic environment, and political stability. Ghana has done so well. This is about our 8th election in the Fourth Republic, and there has not, in fact, 2008 was closely contested between President Kufuor and President Mills, but we didn't fight. So that stability is there, and I'm praying to God that we're able to maintain it, and I'm sure that it will attract more investment.
We will not fight this time around. Thank you so much for talking to us, Dr. Idowu Sarkodie. This is where we draw the curtain for today's Biz Tech show on Ghana Web TV. We spoke to Dr. Idowu Sarkodie on how to manage national assets, and also he helped us break down what the monetary policy rate is to the barest minimum. My name is Desmond Frimpong.
We learn more about internet security on this week's edition of Tech Bits. Let's join Jefferson now.
Hello everyone, my name is Jefferson from Afternoon Music. This week on Tech Bits, we're going to stick back to the theme of internet security. We're going to go back to our browsers, and this time we'll be looking at privacy settings. As a very, very internet-ridden generation, it's very, very important that we continue being safe whilst on the internet. And this week we're going to look at what settings and what things we have to do to keep ourselves safe and our personal information safe, and the things that we do on the internet safe and secure. We're going to look at cookies, we're going to look at data and how data is stored when we visit websites. So let's dive in it and let's see what we have for this week.
Back to our browser. The browser we're using here is Google Chrome, and as you can see, I'm on the Ghana Web website, and most browsers perfectly just looks like this. The system I'm using is a MacBook Pro, just so for those wondering. So last week, remember we spoke about HTTPS and checking that the padlock is on and the site is secure, meaning that you're sending a secure connection from this to that. This week, we're going to dive more into privacy settings. And to check the privacy settings of your browser, you click on this icon on your far right corner with the 3 dots vertically, and you go all the way to settings. And once you click on settings, it opens a different tab. In that tab, there is, on your right hand side, there is a privacy tab. Click on the privacy and security tab. This page gives you a full analytics of everything happening from your browser to the web server. So here you can delete and clear cache. So for those of you, it's very easy. Clear history is basically everything that you've typed in during your whichever time to that time. So when you click on that, it will tell you how long, whether your browsing history since time in the last 4 days or that. So those ones are very simple. The most important thing here is the cookies and cache. Whenever you visit a website for the first time, what happens is that on that site, the website leaves certain things. So certain things like the logo, small bits of it, so that next time when you revisit the website, it loads faster. These small bits or small particles, in this case we call the particles, are called cookies. These cookies, in some cases, is cached because it's leaving a copy of it sit on your computer, so that next time you revisit, they load faster.
most cases, cookies are safe. Some cookies are bad because they use them for marketing. They stay on your browser, and if you go on other places, it keeps a record and send that to the hacker or the whoever is trying to keep track of everything you're doing. So if you want to keep that clean, it's always important to clear your cache once in a while. You can always just take here cached image, and it will even show you how much data it actually consumed over that period of time. So that is for clearing data cache. So you can just go here and clear data, and it will just clear out. This is another way of keeping your browser clean and up to date with all the latest things. So if you take notice, I've chosen how long I want to clear the cache for, so to clear my history from now till then. Another thing in terms of that is you can even see the cookies and site data of everything that it's done. So from here, you'll be able to say allow all cookies or block all third-party cookies. Most of these settings are very, very straightforward, but by default, I recommend to leave it at block third-party cookies for now. As you go down, you will be able to go to the safety aspect of it, where you have standard protection. By default, most of these big time browsers, your Google Chrome, your Firefox, and Safari and Internet Explorers, all have a level of protection. This is because of this same password issues and that. So make sure that this place is either at least on standard or enhanced protection. Don't leave them at no protection at all. At least have something level of protection before you go surfing on the internet. So that's it for this week. I hope you have learned something about browser privacy settings and many more. I will see you again next time. Bye for now.
As the week began with the commemoration of Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day in Ghana, which came off on Monday, September 21st, 2020, the world of business, however, did not skip a beat. Among news that made headlines this week is Ghana's plans to list $500 million of a gold royalty fund on the London Stock Exchange. Also, President Akufo-Addo has announced an increase in the producer price of cocoa. Let's take a look at these and some other top business stories. International media Reuters on Monday, September 21st, 2020, broke the news of plans by the government of Ghana to list an amount of $500 million of gold royalty fund on the London Stock Exchange in October. According to sources familiar with the matter, though the deal could still run into political opposition, government of Ghana has also hired Bank of America and JP Morgan to pursue an initial public offering IPO on the London Stock Exchange later this year. Prior to this, the decision by Parliament to approve the controversial Ejapa royalties transaction has been met with fierce scrutiny from the opposition and civil society groups over what they say is a lack of transparency on the agreement. Ghana wants to take advantage of the precious metals' strong performance this year to raise $400 million to $500 million from the IPO, while the fund shares will also be listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange, the sources said. Deputy Minister for Finance, Charles Edu Boahen, had earlier explained the listing provides an opportunity to raise funds without increasing the national debt burden, with the capital raise intended to go towards the investment developmental projects. The Central Bank, the Bank of Ghana, on Tuesday, September 22nd, began its scheduled Monetary Policy Committee meetings to assess Ghana's economy. For the committee's 96th meeting, it is expected to initiate proposals for the formulation of the monetary policies of the central bank, evaluate Ghana's economy, and provide statistical data, advice, and necessary steps for the formulation of monetary policies. According to a statement issued by the central bank, the committee's assessment of the situation and interventions shall be communicated accordingly on Monday, September 28, 2020. At its 95th meeting in July this year, the central bank kept its monetary policy unchanged at 14.5%, with the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, attributing the verdict to disruptions in the economy triggered largely by the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to the coronavirus outbreak, many businesses have been hugely impacted, with some having to fold up as a result of the pandemic. Meanwhile, in March this year, the committee's meeting saw a 150 base point reduction in the monetary policy rates to 14.5%, with some commercial banks impressed upon to further slash on lending rates to ease access to credit. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has announced that beginning Thursday, October 1, 2020, a new cocoa producer price of 10,560 Ghana cedis per metric ton, equivalent to 660 cedis per bag, will be paid for the coming 2020-2021 crop year. According to the president, this represents a hike of more than 28% over the price obtained in the outgoing crop year of 2019-2020. The current 2019-2020 producer price of 8,240 cedis per metric ton, translating to 514 cedis per bag, was an 8.2% increase over the 2018-2019 price of 7,615 cedis, which is 475 cedis per bag.
Nananum, beginning on 1st October 2020, this year, I'm happy to announce the award of a new cocoa producer price of 10,560 cedis per metric ton. Equivalent to 660 cedis per bag for the coming 2021 cocoa season.
An internal audit conducted by the Youth Employment Agency revealed there were some 20,000 ghost names on the payroll of the agency for the past 3 years. According to the Information Minister, Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, these ghost names cost the taxpayer about 82.5 million Ghana cedis every year. This was revealed during a government encounter to provide nation-building updates to the electorate ahead of the 2020 elections. This is not the first time an internal audit at the YEA has uncovered a huge unauthorized leak of the public coffers. In 2017, a similar internal audit also exposed huge financial misconduct believed to have cost the country about 50 million Ghana cedis. The YEA is mandated by law to coordinate, facilitate, and supervise employment for the youth and related matters in the country. Independent power producers in the country have cautioned of a shutdown of their thermal plants by the end of September 2020. The decision, if moved forward, will likely lead to a power rationing across the country. According to IPPs, many of its members face a real danger of insolvency if government fails to pay a $1.4 billion debt owed to them. This was contained in a notice to the Energy Minister, John Peter Amewu. Per the notice, the IPPs are also urging for the debt to be paid to allow it honor an August 2020 gas bill. Additionally, they state that government's failure to pay the debt will subsequently also lead to a shutdown of fuel supply, while the next installment of loan repayment of $51 million for the Phase 2 project to China Development Bank are also due in September and October this year. That's it for BizTech this week. Log on to www.ghanaweb.com for more stories. You can also follow us on all our social media handles at The Ghana Web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next week.